Hello everyone. My name is Kim Riddick, and I am a counselor. I'm a mental health educator and a self care coach. And you are joining me today for season one, episode two of the Let's Talk with Kimberly Nicole podcast. And today we are going to talk about the all important topic of self care. So September is annually known as Self-Care Awareness Month. Now, self-care is important to engage in all throughout the year, but as we know, there's a lot of different awareness days, dates, months, weeks, and so that's when that particular topic is highlighted. So it's no different with self-care. So I'm going to start off by asking you a question, and I'm going to pause for effect because I want it to sink in. So, what are you doing this month and hopefully all year long to secure your self care? All right. In counseling, we call that golden silence, just letting it be a minute and letting the client or person or group in front of us think about what we just said, or it could be known as a pregnant pause. But we talk in life about securing a lot of things, securing the bag, securing that's the first one that came to mind for me. We talk about securing a lot of things. However, we need to make sure that we're securing our self care as well, because that is an optimal and important part of who we are. And so you may be asking, what is self care? So I'm going to read you a definition that I thought was pretty good and all encompassing, or very inclusive as it concerns self care. So, self care has been defined as the process of establishing behaviors to ensure holistic well being of oneself, to promote health, and to actively manage illness when it occurs. So, this definition of self care includes every area, holistic. So, we're looking at mental, physical, emotional, spiritual well being. We're promoting our health and we're being proactive about it, and which can mean putting practices in place ahead of time. And we are actively managing illness when it occurs, but hopefully the practices that we do eliminate the occurrence of illness. So why do we need to practice self-care? It may sound like a buzzword. You may hear it a lot, and you may be like, well, Kim, why are you even talking about it right now? So we need to practice self-care because it is something that's optimal to our overall well-being. When we think about our physical health, we are working out, we are trying to eat well, we're making dietary changes. Sometimes we're making them ahead of health challenges, and sometimes we're making it to prevent health challenges, and sometimes we may hear of a health challenge in our life and we're making changes then. When we think about our physical health, if we have a headache, if our throat is on fire, if our stomach is upset for multiple days, hopefully we are going to go to a medical professional. Now, the first day your head hurts, you might be like, oh, I'm gonna just take a Tylenol or just let it run its course. But hopefully, if this is a persisting issue, or hopefully to prevent it from becoming a persistent issue, we are going to seek the guidance of a medical professional. And it is the same with our mental and emotional health. We need to be on top of those things. We need to be incorporating self-care practices so that we can optimally live in a state where we're not having as many challenges, or so that we can manage the challenges that we're having. We want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves mentally and emotionally the same way that we're taking care of ourselves physically. And because these things really go together. So, if you're feeling optimally physically, you're better able to engage with individuals around you, to perform your day-to-day task at home, at work, etc. And it is the same with self-care. If you are practicing self-care, if you are taking care of yourself, you're taking care of yourself, mind, body, spirit, then that helps you to be in the most optimal shape. And it helps you when you're engaging with others. It helps you to regulate your emotions. It helps you to think clearer. It helps you to respond more versus reacting. It helps you to be proactive. It helps you to, it deepens and strengthens your relationships, working relationships, personal relationships, because it really does start with you. You are in an optimal state where you're taking care of yourself the best way that you can, and then that allows you to be able to pour more freely or even just pour more clearly into others versus pouring murky water into other individuals that are in your life that you pour into. So it really does start with the vessel of you. Also, self-care is not a luxury, it's an investment. Think about preventative maintenance. So we get oil changes on our car, we get our tires rotated, we get our fluids looked at, we get our filters changed in our cars. So we do this as a preventative measure and maintenance for our car so that our engine's not blowing up, so that we can travel the distance. And it's the same with us as individuals, so that we can travel the distance in life, and that's longevity. And so that we can travel the distance, live as long, live a fruitful life. Because I'm a big firm believer in it's not always about how long you live. You want to make sure that your life is meaningful and that it's a good, solid, fruitful life, that you have peace, that you have love, and you have joy in your life, because you're going to have challenges. But to go the distance and live well, you want to make sure that you are in an optimal state and that you're taking care of yourself. So, excuse me, the same way that we're doing this preventative care with our cars, we have to do it with our lives. And that's what that self-care can look like. It can look like that maintenance, like you go get your oil changes and everything in the car. You need to make sure that you're taking your self-care days and moments. You're taking time away from the day-to-day. And when you can't take away time from your day-to-day operations, you are incorporating into self-care into your day-to-day operations. And we're going to get into talking a little bit about that. So these are going to be your takeaways. What are some practical ways that you can incorporate self-care into your life? And I'm going to give you 3. There's a lot. I'm sure there's more, but I'm going to give you 3 today. And so first, I want you to identify what self-care means to you. Because I promise you, how you perceive it is how you are practicing it. It's directly related to how you are practicing it. How you perceive it is also how you receive it. So if you deem that self-care, if you don't understand self-care, if you don't understand the importance of it, if you don't feel that it's necessary, if you don't believe that you need to engage in self-care, if you don't believe that you're worth engaging in self-care, then you're not going to engage in self-care. But if you have an understanding of self-care and the importance of it and the fact that you are worthy of taking care of yourself, then you're going to think more about it. You're going to may not be perfect in incorporating it into your life. Well, you won't be perfect, but you may not always incorporate it into your life as you need to, but you are going to make it a priority. You're going to have an awareness of the importance of self-care in your life. So that is something that you have to first identify. What meaning do you attach to self-care? Do you believe that self-care is all of the external? Do you attach a monetary value? Like when people say they can't afford self-care, you absolutely can afford self-care, because it is not about the luxury and the money. Luxury can be a way to self-care for you, but true self-care is not about spending money on things. It is about taking care of this vessel that we are living in. Second, you have to understand that it takes trial and error. So what is deemed as self-care for me may not be self-care for you. I live in North Carolina, and in North Carolina, we kind of have a running joke or a running saying that you're either a mountain person or a beach person. So if you beach people, which I'm a beach person, we love the beach, we live for the beach. Mountain people, they, love the beach, love the mountains, live for the mountains. Some people may love both. One person may say that the beach does absolutely nothing for them, but they love the mountains. And then vice versa. Someone may say that the mountains do absolutely nothing for them and they love the beach. Some of us may like both. So I use that analogy to say that it is the same with self-care. You have to think about it like food. It's a lot of different food out there, but some people are more picky. Some people have to be more cautious about what they eat because of different dietary or health challenges. So you have to figure out what is going to work for you. No one can assign the meaning no one can assign to you what is going to work for you for self-care. Someone can make recommendations and, just through knowing you or suggesting things that may have worked for them, but you have to try it out and see if it'll work for you. And if you try something and it doesn't work for you, then don't attach the meaning that self-care doesn't work for you to self-care. That just means you have to try a new self-care practice. If you're going out looking for a car, you're test driving multiple cars. If the first one isn't a good fit, you're not going to say, well, I don't need a car no more and stop searching. No, you keep looking for cars. So you want to make sure that you are doing the same with your self-care. You want to make sure that you are you're trying different things out and you're seeing what's going to work for you. And some of that, like I said, is trial and error. It also comes from self-awareness, having some awareness of what you like, what calms you, what feeds your soul. You have to some of it can be knowing yourself, like personality types. Are you introverted, extroverted? Because an introvert may find that, well, I was gonna say an introvert may find that being around people is not self-care, but it's not that introverts don't like people. They like their people and they're very selective about who they share their energy and space with. So an introvert can find self-care in a one-on-one conversation with someone that they trust and that they feel comfortable and safe with. An extrovert may find self-care in being in a big group of people and being at a big party. An introvert may find self-care in reading a book or making time to pause in their busy schedule, while an extrovert may find self-care in after they leave one event, going to another one because that's what fuels them. But then extroverts also have to make sure that they retract and step back, and they might find self-care in a day at the beach by themselves or with a group of friends. So a part of it is also like knowing yourself and paying attention as you're trying different things to how you feel, because don't force a shoe to fit. Don't force self-care, a practice to fit you. Just find a practice that fits you through trial and error. And so the last thing, number 3, is to create a self-care routine or schedule that is a blend of some non-practical and practical things that you can incorporate. So I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean by practical and non-practical in this context. So practical ways to practice self-care are the things that you can incorporate into your day-to-day routine. So if you have a very busy schedule, making sure that you're scheduling your margin in between your meetings, making sure that you're taking time to eat, making sure that you are going to bed early so that you can rest after a long day and get your optimal amount of sleep, and waking up and how you start and begin your day. Making sure, even if you have a very busy schedule with a lot of meetings, let's say you have 5 minutes in between a meeting, pausing, sitting in silence, maybe walking through a guided meditation with the Calm app on your phone, or Calm, CALM.com, on your desktop computer. Other practical ways are taking a 5-minute walk, getting up, moving around. If you don't have a lot of time, or a 10-minute walk in your building, walk around the building that you work in, or your office, walk and watch the sunset. Walk and don't take your phone or put it on D&D and listen to music, listen to nature, listen to nothing, drive with the music off, and just listen to nature. While you have to wash dishes, you may like washing dishes, may not like washing dishes, but listen to your favorite music. It can be relaxing jazz, or it can be trap music. It's whatever you like, whatever you're in the mood for, and whatever is pouring into you and feeding your soul. If you have to clean, cut on music. If you're cooking, cut on music and dance while you're cooking. Finding practical ways to incorporate self-care into your life. Working out, committing to a workout practice, because sometimes something that can be used in one area of your life can also be used as self-care. So working out has its physical benefits for physical health, but it also has benefits for self-care. And so if you learn that, now that you know that, you can make that shift in your mind that I'm knocking out something for my physical well-being and my self-care at the same time. And so that way it's not so overwhelming where you feel like you're having to add one more thing to your already busy schedule. Now, when we talk about non-practical ways, we think about things that we cannot do every day. And so when we talk about non-practical ways, that might be scheduling a vacation, that might be going to a fancy restaurant. When we think about things that, and you may be able to do these things every day. So then your self-care may be something else. But if you're not in a position where you're able to do that every day, then that could be your non-practical self-care. Because you have to make sure that if you are not in a position where you can just up and vacation like that and put the money towards it, if you do it frequently or more frequently than your budget really is warranting, then it definitely does not become self-care. Because if you're on a trip stressed out about, how you're going to make it through the rest of the month, then that's no longer self-care. So you want to make sure that you're incorporating some non-practical and practical ways. And the biggest thing with that is knowing yourself, knowing what's working for you, and figuring that out along the way and making it work. You also want to think about, for my guys, and this can also be for the females, but when I think about the brothers, the men, I think, sometimes they may not use the word self-care, but they are often practicing self-care. And it's just that they are not attaching the term, this is my self-care, to what they're doing. So it could be hiking, it could be fishing, it could be running a 5K. And again, like I said, these are definitely not limited to the men, but these are some of the things that the men may do that women were looking at our guy and we're like, what are you doing for your self-care? And then he mentions some things that he's doing, and some of them are, or he mentions some things that he's doing, and you may be like, well, where's his self-care in that? He's not spending time alone. He's not doing this. He's not doing that, or whatever. But really, some of the things that he's already doing can be identified as self-care. So in closing, I'm just going to wrap up those 3 tips, or the 3 practical ways to incorporate self-care into your life. First, you want to identify what self-care means to you, because the meaning you assign to it is directly related to how and if and how often you practice it. Second, it takes trial and error. Give yourself grace and flexibility to try out things. Pay attention to how you feel as you're trying these things out, and give yourself grace to pivot if a practice doesn't work, and give yourself grace to continue if a practice does work. And know that, some days this might be self-care for me, other days this might be self-care. It's okay to do different things. And then third, creating a self-care routine that is a blend of non-practical and practical things. The practical things being practices that you can incorporate in your day-to-day. And then the non-practical being things that you may not be able to do on a day-to-day basis, but they do feed you and they do refuel your soul. And so in closing, I want to reiterate this question again. What are you doing this month and hopefully all year long to secure your self-care? I challenge you to go through the steps 1 through 3 that I shared that are practical ways to incorporate self-care into our lives, and identify at least one practice that you can begin. And it can be something as simple as, I'm going to sit in silence for 5 minutes. I'm going to identify a behavior in my life that I want to change, and I'm going to, reflect on that, meditate and work on that. I am going to get a massage, because physical touch is your love language. Then a massage may be a part of your self-care, but it may also be a part of your physical care, because if you have a lot of tension, and sometimes people get massages because of backaches or different issues or ailments. So that can be a part of your physical and your self-care. But you need to make sure that the self-care is coming from within. Self-care really is the things that we do for within. So if it's anything that you're doing externally, you have to make sure that it does something for you internally if you're calling it self-care. And it's not about the monetary value that is spent on it, because we all can absolutely afford to practice self-care. So yes, begin to identify those practices, or at least one practice that you can incorporate, whether it's a non-practical let's identify a practical one. because you can incorporate that into your life. And then also look at some non-practical ways. And if you need assistance with that, I offer self-care coaching where I walk individuals one-on-one and in groups, depends on what you prefer, through a self-care coaching session. So we start with identifying the meaning that you attach to self-care. We go deeper and we look at the barriers and what's preventing or has prevented you and what is preventing you from practicing self-care. And then we begin to build your own self-care plan. And you have to give yourself grace. It might take some thinking, some digging, praying, meditating, and all of that. But you are going to, after a coaching session with me, you are going to figure out what self-care looks like for you. And I will attach a link in the notes so that you can connect with me if you are interested in doing that. And I was going to say, in your routine that we begin to create for you, it will be something practical that you can practice, and you don't have to dish out money because you can absolutely afford self-care and you are worth it. So, all right. So if you enjoyed this episode or you just want to see what's coming, to be notified of what's next, please subscribe. We are at _Let's Talk Wellness. Share this episode and this content. And until next time, take care of yourself on purpose. Be great.